I never thought I'd be in a story like this, but here I am trying to make sense of what happened. It started when I noticed her phone constantly buzzing on the nightstand. My wife, Sarah, was usually pretty careful about her phone, but lately she was always glued to it, snatching it up fast whenever I looked her way, hiding it when I entered the room. Something about her nervous glances, the way she'd quickly lock her screen, made my stomach tighten, but I brushed it off. What was I supposed to think? We'd been together for years and I trusted her. That is, until the day I found the messages. I was going through her phone just out of curiosity, honestly. I didn't expect much, but then I saw the texts. Hundreds of them, flirty, intimate whispers of love and secrets. I saw a message that made my blood run cold. Can't wait to see you tonight. I miss you so much. It wasn't from a random number. It was from her sister, Lisa. Lisa's no stranger. She's Sarah's younger sister, kind of shy, a little awkward, but I always saw her as trustworthy. That's what made this so hard to process. I remembered Lisa's face, her shy smile, the way she blushed when she talked about her brother or her work. I'd never once thought she'd betray that trust, and then I saw what was worse. Attached to that message was a picture, her sister neck to waist, all lit up in the glow of her phone screen, her head thrown back in a laugh. The caption, "Can't wait to see you tonight. Love you, sis." I couldn't breathe for a second. My palms went cold, my stomach sank. I stared at the screen, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. She had been sneaking around, lying to me right in front of my face. All those times she said she loved me, all the plans we made, she'd been sleeping with her own sister. That made a mockery of everything. My mind spun. How long? How many nights had she been sneaking around? Had she told Lisa she was pregnant? I could feel the cold sweat on my forehead, the trembling in my hands. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was right there, staring back at me. I knew this wasn't just a fling. It was something deeper, something that shattered the foundation of what I thought I knew about her. I remember holding her phone, trying to steady my shaking hands, my mind racing. I wanted to confront her right then, but I knew better. I needed a plan. I had to know for sure, get all the facts, figure out what kind of game I was dealing with. I took a deep breath, feeling the heat of betrayal burn in my chest. The world outside suddenly seemed colder, darker, like I was submerged under ice. Later that night, I sat in our living room with her phone in my hand, heart pounding. I called Lisa. Her voice was hesitant, almost guilty when she answered. "Hey, is everything okay?" "No," I said slowly, trying to keep my voice steady. "Listen, I need to ask you something. Did you sleep with my wife?" There was silence on the other end. Then she whispered, I didn't mean for it to happen. It just did." That was the moment I knew. The trust I'd built, the image of my perfect life, all of it was slipping away. And I realized I had to do something. I couldn't just walk away and pretend this never happened. No, I had to make sure she paid for it. I didn't have much experience with revenge, but I knew one thing: I'd never let her or Lisa get away with this. Not without consequences. I needed to be smart, cold, calculated. What they'd done was unforgivable, and I was going to make sure they understood that. The question was how. The night after I found out, I started plotting. I looked at her phone from a distance, then at her face, trying to memorize every detail. I felt this strange mix of rage and emptiness, like I'd been hollowed out from the inside. I thought about her, lying there probably asleep, thinking she was safe. That's when it hit me. I had to hit her where it hurt most. The one thing she cared about. But first, I needed proof. I needed to catch her red-handed doing something more than just hiding her phone. I planned to follow her, see if she'd go out again, or maybe catch her texting Lisa. I wanted indisputable evidence. Once I had that, I'd confront her. But I knew I had to be careful. I couldn't afford to slip up. I sat on the edge of the bed, my mind racing, feeling the weight of everything crashing down. The life I thought I knew was gone. I could feel the knot tightening in my stomach, the burn behind my eyes. I had to choose my next move carefully, because once I revealed my hand, there was no going back. And I wondered, how could I ever trust again? The next few days, I kept my eye on her, pretending everything was normal while gathering every bit of evidence I could find. I noticed small things: the way her phone buzzed constantly at night, her quick, nervous movements when I entered the room, the way she'd hide her face when she thought I wasn't looking. Every little detail added to the picture I was starting to see clearly. One night, I decided to follow her. I waited until she slipped out of bed, acting casual, as if I wasn't watching. Her heels clicked on the hardwood as she slipped out of the apartment. I grabbed my coat, slipped on my sneakers, and quietly followed her out the front door. The street was cold, just like my stomach. My palms were sweaty, but I kept my steps steady, feeling like I was in some kind of low-budget spy movie. She got into her car and drove off. I kept a safe distance, enough not to be seen, but close enough to see where she was going. Turns out, she was heading to Lisa's place. I already knew that was where she'd go, but seeing it in real life made it hit different. I could see Lisa's apartment light flickering, her silhouette moving behind the curtains. It was confirmation enough for me. That's when I decided I'd had enough of waiting. If I wanted answers, I needed to see it with my own eyes. The next day, I snuck into her phone again. This time, I found a series of messages. They weren't just innocent flirting. They were plans, secret rendezvous, promises made in whispers. I saw Lisa talking about how she'd do anything to keep her sister happy, and Sarah responding with, "Just make sure no one finds out." That's when I found the real proof, the ultrasound picture she'd been hiding. I was stunned, frozen in place. There it was, her sister's name. Her supposed due date. My wife, pregnant with her own sister's baby, all while pretending to be fine, pretending she loved me. My stomach clenched so tight I thought I'd throw up. I knew I couldn't confront her yet. There had to be a plan in place. I needed to make her believe I was still in the dark, that I didn't know the full extent. For now, I had my evidence and I was going to use it. I spent the next day trying to figure out what to do. I didn't want to blow everything up without thinking, so I decided to bait her, see how far she'd go. I left my phone out, acting like I didn't suspect a thing, but I kept recording everything on a backup device. I wanted her to slip up again, and when she did, I'd be ready. That night she came home late, her face flushed, eyes darting. She was careful, but I saw the flicker of panic in her eyes when our eyes met. I played it cool, asking about her day. She responded with a rehearsed smile, but I could see the worry behind her eyes. I needed her to make a mistake. I wanted her to tell me more, reveal herself. The next morning, I caught her trying to hide her phone again. I blocked her view, snatched it, and saw what I'd been waiting for. A new message from Lisa. "Tonight's the night. Everything's set." The words felt like a punch to my gut. It was real. They were planning something, and I was right in the middle of it. That's when I knew I had enough. I couldn't wait any longer. The time was coming for the confrontation, but not before I had one last move. I wanted her to believe I was completely clueless, so I crafted a plan. I was going to confront her, but I'd do it in a way she wouldn't expect. Something that would put her off guard, make her feel cornered. I took a deep breath and sat back in my chair, feeling the heat of betrayal still burning in my chest. My mind spun with all the terrible things she'd done. I never thought she'd betray me this way, not with her own sister. The thought made me physically sick, and I knew I had to act fast. I could let her keep playing her game. Before I made my move, I had to prepare everything: evidence, words, timing. I needed to break down her lies and force her to face what she'd done. I was angry, yes, but I also felt a strange clarity. I could see it all now: her betrayal, her lies, her desperation. I wasn't going to let her walk away with this, not without consequences. And so I sat there trying to steady my nerves, knowing the moment of truth was drawing near. I just had to wait for her to slip up again, and when she did, I'd be ready. Because once I exposed her, everything I believed about us, about my life, was going to fall apart. The question was, what would I do once I had the proof? And more importantly, how far was I willing to go? The night I decided to execute my plan, I felt a strange mix of cold resolve and nervous anticipation. I had the evidence, I had the plan, and most important of all, I had her completely off guard. That evening she came home later than usual, her face pale, her hands trembling just slightly as she unlocked the door. I was already sitting in the living room, pretending to be absorbed in a book, but my ears were tuned to her every movement. She hesitated in the doorway, taking a deep breath before stepping inside. "Hey," she said, trying to sound casual, but her voice cracked just a little. I looked up slowly, meeting her eyes. "Hey," I echoed back, my voice flat but steady. I didn't want her to realize I'd been waiting, watching her every move. She set her bag down carefully, her fingers trembling as she tried to appear calm. Long day, she said, avoiding eye contact. I nodded, pretending to be absorbed in the book. Inside, I was planning my next move, waiting for her to slip up again. A few minutes passed, and then she reached into her pocket, subtly pulling out her phone. I caught a flash of her screen, a new message from Lisa. "Tonight's the night. I'll be there at 9." I saw her eyes flicker, a flicker of guilt or maybe fear. That was all I needed. I finally decided to make my move. "Sarah," I said softly, setting the book down and leaning forward. "We need to talk. I know everything." Her face lost all color. She froze for a second before trying to act nonchalant. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out the evidence, her saved messages, the ultrasound picture. "This," I said, voice thick with anger, "is what I found. I know about you and Lisa. I know about the pregnancy. And I know you've been lying to me the entire time." Her eyes widened, but she quickly masked it. "You're crazy," she whispered. "You don't know what you're saying." "Oh, I think I do," I shot back. "You thought you could get away with this, didn't you? Sleeping with your own sister, lying about a kid on the way. How long has this been going on?" She swallowed hard, her face twitching with guilt and worry. "It's not what you think, it's complicated," she muttered. "Complicated?" I snapped, leaning closer. "It's disgusting, and I want to hear it from you. Tell me what the hell is going on." She looked down, tears pooling in her eyes. "We didn't mean for it to happen." Lisa was upset. She was going through a rough patch. I didn't think it would turn into this. I was drunk, I was weak. I clenched my fists, feeling the fury boil inside me. "Weak? You're supposed to be my wife, my partner. How could you do this? How could you sleep with your own sister?" She looked up, her voice trembling. "I didn't think you'd find out. I thought I could fix it somehow. I never wanted you to get hurt." I stood up, my jaw tight. "You already did. You betrayed everything we had. And I swear I'm not going to let you get away with it." Her shoulders shook as she sobbed quietly. "Please don't do anything reckless. I love you, I swear." I took a deep breath, feeling the rage sharpen into something cold and precise. "Love? You call this love? You're sleeping with your sister, lying to me about a kid, and you think I'll just forgive that?" She looked up, desperation in her eyes. "Tell me what you're going to do. I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you." That's when I made my decision. I wasn't just going to walk away broken. No, I was going to make her regret every lie, every betrayal. I had the proof right here, and I knew exactly how to use it. "I'm done playing nice," I said softly. "You want to see how serious I am? You're going to wish you never crossed me." She reached out, grabbing my sleeve. "Please, just listen." "Save it," I cut her off. "Tomorrow I'm going to tell your family, your brother, Lisa's parents, everyone, because I refuse to let you destroy me with your lies." Her eyes widened further, but I saw a flicker of defiance too. She knew I meant business, and I knew I had to follow through. I walked to the door, pulling out the small recorder I'd hidden in my pocket. "This," I said, holding it up, "is going to be proof. I want everyone to see the truth, and after that I want you out of my life. Don't bother trying to contact me anymore." As I turned the key in the lock and walked out, I felt a strange mixture of relief and coldness. This was the beginning of the end. She pushed me to the edge, and I was finally ready to cut her loose. The first step was done. Now I just had to watch her reaction, see what she did next, because once I handed her the evidence, everything would change forever, and I'd be waiting for her to make her next move. The first thing I did the next morning was call a lawyer. I needed someone to help me understand my rights, what I could do, and how to handle this mess. I wasn't about to walk into a minefield without knowing where I stood. Sitting at my kitchen table, coffee growing cold in my mug, I explained everything. Her betrayal, the pregnancy, the evidence I'd gathered. The lawyer was calm, professional. "You have grounds for a serious breach of trust, and depending on what you want, potential grounds for separation or divorce. The fact that she's pregnant complicates things, but it's not insurmountable. You need to be prepared for her to make claims about her feelings, her rights, and the child's rights. The important thing is to stay focused and gather everything, texts, pictures, everything that supports your case." I nodded, feeling my jaw tighten. "I want her out. I want her to leave today if possible. I don't want her anywhere near me or my house anymore." "Good," she said. "You should also think about securing your financial interests, especially if she's pregnant. Consult a family lawyer about custody support and your assets. But the main priority right now is to document everything. Keep a detailed record of her actions, her communications, and any evidence you find." I hung up more determined than ever. Every step I took was calculated. I wasn't going to let her walk all over me, not after what she'd done. I knew I had to confront her again, face to face this time, with everything laid out on the table. Late afternoon, I went to her apartment building. I took a deep breath before knocking, nerves tightening my chest. When she answered the door, her face was pale, eyes red-rimmed from crying. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "I came to see if you're leaving today," I said coldly. "Or are you planning to stay and fight?" She looked down, trembling. "I don't want to leave," she whispered. "Not yet, I want to talk. I have nothing to say," I shot back. "You lied, you betrayed everything. I've already taken steps to protect myself and my interests. You're not staying here, not anymore." Her lips trembled. "Please, can we just talk, just for a minute?" I felt my fists clench. "No, if you want to talk, it's with your lawyer, not me. I'm done with your lies." I handed her the folder with all the proof I'd collected: screenshots, recordings, the ultrasound picture. "Keep this. It's proof of everything you've done." Her eyes widened and she looked like she was about to say something, but I cut her off. "I want you gone. Now don't come back." She burst into tears, clutching the folder like a lifeline. I didn't care. The only thing I cared about was ending this chapter of my life. I turned and walked away, feeling the weight lift just slightly with each step. Driving away, I couldn't help but reflect on what had led me here. It was surreal. My wife, my best friend's sister, the girl I trusted. All of it shattered in a matter of days. The betrayal cut deeper than I'd expected. But at least now I knew the truth. And truth, even brutal as it was, gave me clarity. I spent the night empty in a cold apartment, staring at the walls, feeling the hollow ache in my chest. I wondered what she was doing, where she was, and how she'd react once she realized I'd gone full tilt. I'd made her realize I wasn't naive anymore, that I saw everything. The next morning, I woke up and made the hardest decision of all. I went to her parents' house, Lisa's parents, to tell them everything. I needed the support, the protection, the truth laid bare. I knew they'd be shocked, probably furious, but I didn't care. They deserved to know what their daughter was involved in, what she was capable of. I knocked on their door, feeling my heart pounding. When Lisa's mother opened, I saw the surprise and concern in her eyes. "I need to talk," I said, voice firm. "About Lisa, her sister Sarah, and what I've uncovered. It's serious." They let me in and I laid it all out. The texts, the ultrasound, the planning, the lies. I saw their faces turn pale, then flush with anger. Lisa's mother looked like she'd been punched in the gut. "Why didn't we see this sooner?" she whispered, voice trembling. "Because she lied," I said coldly. "And I was naive enough to trust her, but now I want you to know the truth. I'm not going to be part of this anymore. I want nothing to do with your daughter or her sister." They promised to handle it, promised to talk to Lisa. I felt a small flicker of relief, knowing I'd done what I could to protect myself and expose the lies. I handed over the evidence I had, telling them to keep it safe until they decided what to do. As I left their house, I felt a strange sense of finality. It was over, or so I told myself. I walked away with a heavy heart but a clear mind. I'd done everything I could to end this nightmare, to reclaim my life. The pain still lingered, but I knew this was the only way forward. Moving on meant cutting out the poison, even if it meant losing everything I thought I knew. I learned one thing. Sometimes trust gets broken so badly, the only way to heal is to burn everything down first. The aftermath hit me harder than I expected. I thought I'd feel relief, maybe even a sense of victory once everything was out in the open. But that's not how it went. Instead, I felt hollow, drained, like the betrayal had drained all the color from my world. My phone was flooded with messages, mostly from Sarah, begging, crying, trying to explain, but I couldn't bring myself to read them. I knew what her words would be: apologies, pleas, promises to change. None of that mattered anymore. I'd handed over the evidence to her family, cut ties with her entirely, and finally felt the raw weight of how much trust I'd lost. I went back to my apartment that night, sitting on the edge of my bed, feeling the cold air press against my skin. I stared at the walls, wondering if I'd ever feel normal again. Could I even trust myself after all this? That night, I finally turned on the TV, fatigue dragging my eyelids down. As I flipped channels, I saw her face on the news: Sarah, holding a pregnancy test, crying in front of a camera, tears streaming down her cheeks. I couldn't help but watch. Her voice cracked as she told the world she was pregnant, claiming she was sorry, saying she'd made mistakes but loved her baby more than anything. I felt my stomach turn. Part of me wanted to vomit, another part just wanted to scream. It was a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I'd lost her, and now she was out there, pregnant with her sister's child, spinning her story. I knew I'd never get her back, never trust her again. And honestly, I didn't want to. The betrayal had cut too deep. For days, I stayed away from everyone, trying to process what had happened. I stayed quiet, avoiding calls and messages, not even returning my friends' texts. I needed space, time to breathe, to think. The pain was raw and physical, like a deep ache in my chest, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I'd done what I could. I'd uncovered everything, exposed the truth, and taken control of my life again. Eventually, I made a decision. I was going to start rebuilding. It wouldn't be easy, I knew that, but I refused to let her betrayal define me. I had to focus on myself now, on healing. And moving forward, I found a job, started going to the gym, and even tried to reconnect with some old friends. Little by little, I was trying to piece myself back together. One day, I sat down in a quiet coffee shop, staring out the window. My mind drifted back to everything: the lies, the betrayal, the revenge. I realized I'd never be able to erase what happened, but I could choose how I carried it. I'd learned that trust was fragile, but resilience was stronger. That betrayal could hurt, but it also taught you who you really were. As I sipped my coffee, I made a vow. I wasn't going to be a victim anymore. I'd rebuild my life on my own terms, no matter how much it hurt or how long it took. And I'd remember this, because sometimes the only way to truly move on is to confront your demons, face the betrayal, and walk away with your head held high. That's what I decided. No more secrets. No more lies. Just the truth and me standing tall. Because in the end, that's all that matters, being brave enough to start over, no matter how broken everything feels. Weeks turned into months, and slowly I started to feel like myself again, more or less. The ache in my chest didn't completely go away, but it was less sharp, dulled by time and deliberate effort. I still thought about her sometimes, about what I lost, but I refused to let it define me. The key was remembering what I'd learned. Trust is fragile, but my own strength was. I had survived, and I was still standing. One day, I decided to take control of everything. I went to the bank, closed the joint accounts, and made arrangements to get everything sorted out legally. I handed over the keys to her apartment. No second guessing, no regrets. I knew I had to cut ties cleanly if I was ever going to move forward. As I handed over the key, I felt an odd sense of finality. It was over. I also went to see my lawyer, who helped me draft a formal statement and set up measures for my future: custody arrangements, support plans, and protecting my assets. Sitting there in that office, I finally felt a surge of clarity. I'd done everything I could to protect myself, to make sure the betrayal didn't ruin me entirely. On a quiet afternoon, I sat in my favorite park, watching the world go by. The sunlight warmed my face, and I took a deep breath, feeling the weight in my chest lift just a little more. I thought about what I'd learned from all this: the importance of trusting your gut, of setting boundaries, and of standing up for yourself even when everything inside wants to break down. A little voice whispered, I'd been naive, but I'd also been brave. I'd faced the worst and come out the other side. That's what mattered. I'd learned that sometimes the greatest act of strength is walking away, even when everything inside screams to stay and fix what's broken. Looking around at the people passing by, I realized something fundamental. Life kept moving, whether you were ready or not, and I was choosing to move with it. Not because I'd forgotten, but because I'd decided to learn from the pain, to turn it into something that made me stronger, smarter. I made a final decision that day. I was done looking back. From now on, I would focus on what's ahead: new beginnings, new trust, new hope. No more secrets, no more lies. Just me, walking forward one step at a time. And in that moment, I felt a quiet confidence settle in, the kind that only comes from surviving something that almost broke you. I knew I'd never forget, but I also knew I'd moved on. Because sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is to let go and trust that life will find a way to heal you, even when everything seems lost.